Hello everyone! For this video I'm going to read books that I am meant to love based on my zodiac sign. And of course I am not the first one to do this video. Books and Lala I think was the first one, and she did a video where she read like an Aries. I thought that her video was amazing, and then I went searching on YouTube and tried to find a video that represented my zodiac sign, which is Taurus. And right now when I'm sitting here filming this, it's actually Taurus season. So anyway, I went searching for a similar video and I found nothing. So this was a couple of months ago, and I don't know if anyone has posted a video since then, but I couldn't find my own zodiac in this type of format. But I was just sitting there thinking that maybe I should try this. Maybe I should make that video. So that is exactly what I will be doing for this video. I will try reading books that are meant for Tauruses like myself and see if I will enjoy them based on my zodiac sign. So I messaged Books and All on Instagram to ask if I could do this video because, you know, it's her idea and I want to give her all the credit. So you can find her channel and her video below in the description. And I got approved to do this video, and I'm just saying that I want to see more of these kinds of videos because I want to see the different type of zodiac signs. I want to see people try them out because I think it's a fun concept of a video. Anyway, this was the longest intro, but I will be checking out on the internet books that are meant for Tauruses. So this is just my basic knowledge of Taurus as a sign. It's an earth sign. I have kind of gotten the impression that Tauruses are meant to be very stubborn, we're meant to be very grounded, and yeah, maybe sometimes I can feel that way, that I fit into the Taurus box. Also, if you have any more knowledge about these signs, please comment it below because, you know, I probably have no clue about this. So first off, I'm going to look at Books and Alla's own blog post about this, where she lists recommendations for every zodiac sign because of course she made this a thing and this is her idea that I'm making a video for. So of course I will pick one book from her list for Tauruses. I'm just scrolling. We have Aries, Aquarius, Cancer, Capricorn, Gemini. Here we have Taurus. I have a couple of books here that I am interested in reading. We have The Surprising Power of a Good Dumpling. I am actually really interested in reading this. So this book is definitely a book that I will be looking at for picking this book. So I have actually read To Kill a Mockingbird and I did like it. I read it for school. So it wasn't the most fun of experiences I have had with the book. Throne of Glass I am actually rereading right now. The Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm interested in reading that. I have it on my shelf. The Reader I'm not so interested in reading because I haven't heard about it. The Foolish Hearts, the same with that one. Clockwork Angel, Cassandra Clare. If you have watched other videos from me, you will know that I don't like Cassandra Clare. She's just not my type of author. The Perfect Candidate. This looks like a thriller, and honestly I'm not that interested in reading a thriller. Genuine Fraud I am not interested in reading because I think it's a thriller as well. Don't quote me on that. A Little Life. I am interested in reading that at some point because it seems really good. I think that all the people who has read it have loved it. So Turtles All the Way Down, John Green. I think I have read one John Green book in the past and I'm not interested in reading John Green. But then we have If You Come Softly by Jacqueline Woodson. I think I'm actually going to read If You Come Softly by Jacqueline Woodson. So I'm just gonna check on Goodreads what this is about, and I actually must say that I like the new cover better. So this seems like a short story in a way because it's only 181 pages and it has great rating on Goodreads, as you can see. And this is about two teenagers who is going to this school where none of them quite fit in, and they both seem to have difficulties and struggles at home and in their personal lives, and in this, you know, confused state that they are in, they seem to find each other and find love in each other. I think this is going to be beautiful, just short, sweet and beautiful, and I think this is the first book that I will be reading for this video. So If You Come Softly by Jacqueline Woodson. So then I have another source here from Bustle. The one book you absolutely need to read according to your zodiac sign. So let's see what book I need to read. Aries. And then we have Taurus, The Tale of Genji by Murasaki Shikibu. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Cover is gorgeous. And this is the text following the recommendation. Others might peg you boring, Taurus, but not me. I know you have the tenacity, I'm sorry, English is not my first language, and necessary to read a 1,200 page classic in translation, and The Tale of Genji is a classic, is as classic as it gets. Did I read that correctly? 1,200 page novel. So first of all, this book sounds great. I think that I would enjoy this book, but I'm not going to read 1,200 page book for this video. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you want me to read this book, comment below, but not today. And then I searched for fantasy book recommendations because Books and Lala didn't have that much fantasy in her recommendations, and the one that I just checked, that didn't seem to have that much fantasy on it either. So, you know, I love fantasy, so I wanted to see if there was any fantasy book recommendations I could read for this video. So here we have fantasy book recommendations based on your zodiac sign on this website, novels and nebulas. And then we have Taurus with Cersei by Melanie Miller, and I have read this book actually, and I gave it 2 stars. I didn't enjoy it at all, but I think a misconception of Tauruses, like said in the previous one, that we are boring. I also think that Tauruses are very slow moving and, you know, very grounded at all times, and this book is exactly that. So even though I'm a Taurus, I don't like slow moving books. So this recommendation is a big no from me. So then I have another blog, the Garden of Reading blog. So this blog post is specifically for Tauruses. So this blog post delves deeper into what Taurus actually is. It says here that Taurus is an earth sign, which means individuals in this element are extremely grounded and down to earth. And then she goes on to say, for Taurus, I recommend books that feature a strong friendship, feature a loyal character, take place in nature or are earthy in tones, are a survival story with an independent character who has to fend for themselves, feature a character who appreciates beauty, features a character who is in tune with their sense of taste and or loves to cook bake. So here we have the book. So Tiger Lily, I am not going to read this one because I have heard bad things about this book. Charlotte's Web, I'm not interested in reading this book, sorry. Wild by Alex Mallory. Wild is a YA retelling of Tarzan that takes place in the present. No. Hatchet by Mark Twain. Like Wild, Hatchet is a story about a male protagonist who is capable of surviving on his own in the wilderness. If any sign in the zodiac could do that, it would be the tough bull. I'm not going to read this as well because I actually see another book over here. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. There is one main reason I am suggesting The Picture of Dorian Gray, that being bulls are obsessed with beauty. I wouldn't say that I'm obsessed with beauty, or am I? Like, I don't think I'm obsessed with my own beauty, but I am obsessed with having beautiful things around me. Like, I love flowers, I love having my room nicely decorated. So in that way, I may be obsessed with beauty. It sounds really like vain. Okay, The Picture of Dorian Gray, I actually have that on my shelf, and Heartless is the last one and I want to read that, but the one book that I have on my shelf that is recommended right here is The Picture of Dorian Gray, which I am going to pick up right now. So The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, this is the Chiltern Classics edition. Like, it's a special edition and it's like smaller than a hardback and the edges are gold. Like, it's so damn beautiful that I don't really mind, but what I don't like is that this is kind of plastic. It's not paper, it's plastic. So that's the only thing that I don't like about this copy. Anyway, I'm absolutely going to read this book because I have it on my shelf and it has been recommended to me because I'm a Taurus. So right now we have 2 books, If You Come Softly by Jacqueline Woodson and The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is about Dorian Gray, who is obsessed with his looks, and I think he gets someone to paint him. He gets a painter or an artist to paint him a portrait of himself because he's obsessed with how he looks, and I think he somehow makes a deal with the devil to be beautiful forever and keep his beautiful youth. But while he remains beautiful, his portrait begins to start looking really grotesque. You know, all his ugliness is shown in the portrait. So the last book I'm actually going to pick from YouTube because I searched for like Zodiac book recommendations and I found this video. I think she's a fellow booktuber and I will link her channel below so you can watch this video if you want to. So I'm just gonna watch this video. Now for Taurus. Okay, so she recommends The Hating Game for Tauruses, and she talks about Tauruses being very stubborn and that, you know, is the main reason that she is recommending The Hating Game. I actually have The Hating Game. So based on Kelly's recommendation, I will be reading The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This is a romance novel about 2 enemies in an office who are kind of competing against each other. You know, like she said, the back and forth, like enemies to lovers in an office setting. So this will be the 3rd and final book that I will be reading for this video. You know, I have a romance, I have a classic, and I have a hard-hitting contemporary. Complete different kinds of books, but none of them are fantasy because I could not find that many fantasy recommendations for Tauruses at all. But I think this is going to be a great experience for me in that way as well, because I will be reading books that I would not have picked up on my own. So like I said, I will begin to read The Hating Game today, and I will read 1 chapter and then get back to you on my update to just tell my initial thoughts about the book, because I have found that that is my favorite way to do things. I will talk to you guys again when I have finished those 2 chapters. Update. I have read 2 chapters in The Hating Game. I'm on chapter 3 right now. It's really fun so far. The back and forth is fun, and that was the main reason that Kelly recommended this to a Taurus, and I must say I am liking it so far. And these 2 first chapters is really the premise of the book. The promise of the premise, I guess. They promise back and forth, they promise hate to love, enemies to lovers. It's really fun so far. That's all I gotta say. I will talk to you guys again when I have either finished the book or gotten halfway. So I finished this in just about 2 days, and I just thought that I could talk a quick sec about what I thought about it. So I just came home from school, so I excuse my appearance, but I absolutely adored the hating game. And much like Kelly said on her YouTube video, me as a Taurus would really like the back and forth between the two. The main character Lucinda had that stubbornness that Tauruses is often said to have. And I did definitely enjoy it for those reasons that she mentioned. I absolutely loved it. I'm giving it 5 stars. I love their relationship with each other, and I think that many contemporary romances that I have read have a very fleshed out main character and the love interest not so fleshed out at all. An example of this is Can You Keep a Secret by Sophie Kinsella that I read for the collab I did with Lisa from Remarkably Lisa here on YouTube. But this was the opposite. I really felt like the two main characters were fleshed out, well written, and I felt like I really knew them when reading the book. And I loved the main character, and I loved their banter, I loved their relationship. I have talked about that already, but I really enjoyed everything about this, and this makes me realize that I need to read more books like these. First book in this vlog went very well, and I'm giving it 5 stars. And then I'm going to talk about The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I read the first chapter of this because I didn't want to read the second chapter. It was so damn slow. Prose are beautiful. It is beautifully written in that way that, you know, the main character, Lord Henry was his name. He is the POV that we get to see everything from. He explains the beauty of the flowers and the garden and a painting and just, you know, the painting of Dorian Gray. He describes everything very beautifully, and the prose are long and beautiful. But you know, the long sentences and the long prose makes it kind of slow, very slow. And it's mostly, so far, told in dialogue. So we get to know a lot through dialogue. We get to know Lord Henry, how he is like a person when he talks to the artist who painted The Picture of Dorian Gray, who is his friend. They're all friends, or not Dorian Gray, he's not friends with Lord Henry. The painter and Lord Henry is friends, and in a conversation between those two, we get to know a lot about the characters. I am not a fan of this because I like when we are shown the characters' personality in how they act around others, how they talk to others. Like, I don't want to hear the main character speak about his friend and explain how his friend is as a person, and I don't want his friend to explain how the main character is like as a person. Do you know what I mean? I think I'm not the only one who thinks this. So that's my thoughts so far. I don't really have any more thoughts. I'm hoping to finish it by this Friday maybe. So it's slow, but the whole book is interesting, and I'm excited to see where it will go when I keep reading, because, you know, the premise of the story is really interesting, and I'm hoping that it will be good, you know. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys again when I have gone halfway, maybe, or finished it. I don't know. Okay, hello. I'm here to talk about The Picture of Dorian Gray and a little bit about the hating game as well. And I'm gonna start off with talking about the hating game, because I do not think that I had much to say about this in the previous clip, because I just come home from school and I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. But here comes my full-on wrap-up about this book. So I gave this book 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it from beginning to end. I really liked that the two main characters were, you know, fleshed out. I could believe everything that they did, and I could believe their reasons for it. The only thing, thinking back on, that I did not like, and I realized this when reading the book as well, was the fixation with how small Lucy, or Lucinda, she was really tiny and she was really short, and there was such a fixation about him being this very big man. I've heard things that some authors and some books have this fixation with tiny heroines, and that is a thing in some romance books, that it's kind of hot to have this really big, long, muscular guy with this shorter woman. But I didn't like that aspect of the book, and I didn't think that that was very interesting, and it was mentioned a lot during this whole book, that dimension between them, and that was just a fixation that I didn't really vibe with. And with some like sexual scenes, this was mentioned, that she was so short that he could pick her up, and, you know, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but that wasn't hot for me, and that brought me right out of the tensional scene. It was mentioned so much during the book that I can't really understand why. Like, in the beginning, of course, it builds character, and it can be mentioned during the book, so we can be remembered and refresh how scenes look and how these two people look together. But it was still really weird being like reminded of it every time they had like romantic encounters with each other. So that is the only thing that I didn't like about this book. That was just a small irritating thing that I got through, and it wasn't that big of a deal. So I still gave it 5 stars, and I loved their dynamic with each other, and I loved how realistic the ending was, and I did predict how the story was going to go, because after we got to know the love interest a lot, Joshua is his name, I just knew how the story was going to end. It was really fun with this office romance-ish, you know, hate to love romance. Anyway, the hating game I loved, and it made me so happy. I read this in 2 days. I was really dreading picking up The Picture of Dorian Gray because I just wanted to read more romance and a more fast-paced kind of book, because I knew Dorian Gray being a classic that I wouldn't be able to read it at the same rate that I read this book. So with that said, this made me open my eyes and realize that I love romance, and I knew that of course before, but I definitely want to pick up a lot more romance in April, and I have. After finishing The Picture of Dorian Gray, wanted a romance, and my birthday was yesterday, and I thought that I'm just gonna read something that I really want to read right now. So after this I checked on Goodreads and checked what other people liked based on this book, and I think it was a lot of good recommendations there. One of them was The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, I think her name is, and I'm actually reading that right now, and it's so damn fast paced. I'm already like 10 chapters in, and I read only a little bit last night and a little bit this morning, and it's so damn fun. That's told from 2 point of views, the heroine and the hero. The Quiz Quotient by Helen Huang I'm reading right now, and all of Helen Huang's books is definitely on my radar. And also Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. That has been on my TBR for ages, ever since I heard about it, so I'm definitely going to read that right after I finish the last book for this video. But anyway, so after reading The Hating Game, I did get into the Dorian Gray and I started reading it. So I started reading this book with my own eyes, page after page. The language was definitely something I had to get used to, and I did not get used to it until like I had 100 pages left or 50 pages left. It took a long time for me to get used to the language, and I knew this going into this book because it's a classic. It was published a long time ago, 18th century, 19th century, 17th century. I don't have a clue when this was published, but it was a long time ago, and it is set in a time where they used a language that I don't really understand. There was so much terminology in this book that I could not grasp, and English is not my first language, so in other books I can get an idea of a sentence or a paragraph by the surrounding sentences, and you know, that's how I've been learning English in school and, you know, reading. That's why I can read so many English books, I guess. And over the years I have learned a lot of English vocabulary and so on. But this was something I had never read before, and when all the sentences were built up of terminology that I did not understand, it was a hard time for me to understand the whole picture. But of course the whole plot of the book I do understand, and going into this book we already have an idea of what the book is going to be. We know that we are going to follow Dorian Gray as he gets a picture painted of him and he starts living this very vain, grotesque lifestyle. Like, he doesn't care what he does. This book talks a lot about sin. We know that he doesn't alter himself, but his picture alters and show the grotesque nature of his soul. So we already know this, and that didn't take away from the story because I wanted to know how this author, Oscar Wilde, painted that picture for us. It was a lot easier for me to get a grasp of the dialogue because a lot of this book is told through dialogue, and a lot of the characteristics of the characters are told through dialogue, and I talk a little bit about that, I think, in the last clip that you saw. So that was easier than the full-on page of the page with description of like antique things that I did not know about. So then I grew tired of it. I didn't want to finish reading, and that's why I didn't update you guys on this book while I was reading it, because it was a pain in the ass to read this book. But with that said, I picked it up as an audiobook and I listened to it at the same time that I was reading it, and that definitely got me through the last 50 or 70 pages way quicker. So there was some plot twist, and the ending definitely surprised me in a very good way. I really enjoyed the ending. I think I'm going to give this 3 stars, and I do appreciate what this book did, but me being a person that has only read new literary, I was shocked at how racist this was, how anti-Semitic it was at times, and how sexist this book was. And I know this was probably written in a time where these things were a lot more accepted in society, I guess. It was accepted to be sexist and think higher of men than women, and think of women as an object, I guess, and not smart enough, and it was accepted in high society of white dudes to call people ugly names and call. There's one character that is Jew in this book and they call him ugly and rude, and they specifically point at his religion when talking about him. So that shocked me. As a reader of new literary and fantasy that is very inclusive, I searched on Goodreads for reviews that mentioned this, but I didn't really find any. So I don't really know how to think about this. It really unsettled me, but at the same time I have to have an understanding that this was written in a time that these things were accepted, and that I have to be aware of that when reading this book. But you know, I didn't really like that. So that's my thoughts about this book. I think I'm giving it 3 stars because, you know, the overall plot of this book was really interesting and I wanted to know what was happening, but it was not a good time. And I do not think that maybe this was the place to start for me in terms of classics. But with that said, I'm going to take a small break from reading for this video. As I said, I'm going to finish The Quiz Quotient by Helen Huang, and I think it's going to take only over the weekend. So next week, today's Friday, so next week I'm going to start on If We Come Softly by Jacqueline Woodson, I think her name was. So I'm going to start on that next week, and I think it's going to be a quick read. It's only like 180 pages and I'm really excited about that. But with that said, I know I talked about, you know, Taurus season, and I'm a Taurus, so now is my birthday. And my birthday was yesterday, so Thursday the 29th. And I got 2 books yesterday, so I thought that I could show them to you. I'm being quite contradictory here because I just said that, you know, classics. I don't really like classics. But I don't think that it is overall classics that I don't like. I just think that that wasn't my thing. I got Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, but this is the same that has printed the picture of Dorian Gray, and it also have the gold edges, because I have said to myself that I am only going to buy books now or wish for books when I have birthdays. That is beautiful, and this is damn beautiful, and I think I'm going to love it. I have already read like the first page of this book because I really wanted to see how the language was, if I was going to understand the language. And after I read the first page, I think I'm going to have a much easier time reading this than The Picture of Dorian Gray. And I already know the story of Sense and Sensibility and Eleanor and Marianne from the movie adaptation, and I have watched that multiple times. And then I also got Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. This is the sequel to Skyward, which I read in a video. I can link that in this corner, also in the description below. I read that very recently for a video and I absolutely loved it. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched that video, I loved it. Skyward was such a fun time, and this is a sci-fi book, a YA sci-fi, and I love Spence as a character, and I really want to see where her story goes in this one. And also I love this cover. With that said, I'm going to turn off the camera now because I'm always talking way too long in these clips, and I'm going to talk to you again when I have started on If We Come Softly by Jacqueline Woodson. So I finished the last book that I was going to read for this video, If You Come Softly by Jacqueline Woodson. It's gloomy outside and it's raining, and I feel that this day was perfect for finishing this book. It was just 180 pages, half of a normal length book, and she, the author, managed to get all of that emotion, all that character building and development in those 180 pages. Like, that was the best short book or short story. I don't even know if this is a book or if it's a short story, but I am amazed at how she managed to do that in just that small amount of space. If you haven't read this book, definitely you should go do that. But it follows 2 main characters, both 15 years old. So we follow these 2 characters as they get to know each other and as they fall in love with each other. And we also follow their separate family lives. Jeremiah struggles at home with a lot of stuff, as well as Ellie. Jeremiah's parents divorced when he was younger, and that has had a huge impact on him as a character and as a person. And Ellie has some rough things going on at home as well. And first, when I started reading the book, I was kind of shocked that we didn't get so much time with Jeremiah and Ellie. Like, they don't get the most screen time together. They are 2 separate people for most of the time, and we get to know them as separate people and how their families work, and that's the core of this book, is not their love for each other. But with these struggles, they found something in each other that made them happy and that made them think that everything was going to be alright. I didn't cry while reading this book, but it was, you know, I was about to, because the ending didn't shock me. That's mainly because when I was googling this damn book and was going to buy it as an ebook, there was a Google search that said something, and I was like, okay, then I know this is going to happen. I won't spoil anything for you guys if you are going to read this book. But the whole thing that happened in the end was spoiled to me before I started the book. And then the first chapter or the prologue, we know what's going to happen before the book even begins, if you know what I mean. But we don't know how it happened. Like, I had my guesses, but there is hints in that particular chapter on what's going on. Okay, I'm going into spoiler territory right now. I'm putting up a spoiler thing right here on the screen, and you can just go forward till I don't talk about the spoilery things. When I googled it, the Google search was, how does Jeremiah die? So right off the bat I knew that he was going to die. And then we got to the prologue in the book. We follow Ellie in that prologue as she thinks about that there is no Jeremiah anymore, or there isn't a boy anymore. There was at some point last autumn, but there isn't anymore. We always knew that he was going to die. And then we get to the part where his dad, or I think it's a flashback when Jeremiah is a kid and he starts running away from his dad, and his dad gets really upset with him and talks to him and says that you will never run in a white neighborhood. And it's so freaking sad and it's terrible. I'm getting kind of emotional, but it's so freaking terrible that his dad has to teach him as a kid that you should not run and have fun in a white neighborhood. So then we fast forward a couple of pages in the book, like 20 pages or 40 pages, I don't really know. And we get to see him with Ellie, and they talk about how Ellie is going to tell about him to her parents, and that he wants to meet them. You know, go to her house and go to her family, because in this whole book there is a plot line, I guess, Ellie being afraid that her parents won't accept her being with Jeremiah because he's black. Because when she talked about this with her older sister Anne, she got kind of shocked and she was taken aback by the fact that he was black. And so Ellie had that fear in her all this time that they were going to show them the same disrespect as like a lot of other white people in the world were showing them on the streets and in the school, and you know. So they talk about that, and Ellie goes home to tell her parents, and he's just so happy and looks at life as this beautiful thing, and he's so glad that he's going to meet Ellie's parents and be with this girl like for the rest of his life. So he starts running in Central Park with his basketball. In this paragraph, or in this like 2 pages, there was a sentence I think that went like, he didn't know, or somebody didn't know. It didn't go like that, but you know, somebody didn't know. He didn't know if they were looking for a black person running. It was something like that, a point towards that someone was following and running after him, and that person were said to find or follow a black man, like a tall black man, and that they thought Jeremiah was that man that they were meant to follow. And my instinct was, yeah, it's a cop. And then there's someone who's yelling stop, and Jeremiah, we're in his head, and it's like he can't stop. He wants to keep running. He's thinking about basketball and how much he loves that. He's thinking about Ellie, and he keeps running. And then the chapter ends with he felt like, I'm holding my hand on my stomach, like the left side of my stomach. While he was running, he felt a sharp hot pain in his stomach, and then he was falling. And so someone was running after him, and they shot him, and he's dead. And that just hit me in the chest so freaking hard, because his dad had told him not to run in white neighborhoods, and he was running through Central Park, and yeah. So that was the spoilery part that I just wanted to get off my chest, and it made me so freaking sad and heartbroken. And this book was really freaking good. And when I was finished with the book, I saw that she has read a lot of other books, and I think she has won awards for her books, and I must say that she is a great writer. It took a while for me to get into the stylistic choices with her writing styles, like the voice of the book with Jeremiah's chapters, for example. But when I had gotten used to it, it was so freaking beautiful, and it had a punch. It felt like poetry in a way, but it felt like understandable poetry, because when I read poetry, sometimes there's just words built in a couple of sentences that I don't get the punch, you know. I don't get the punch of the poetry, but I did get that with this book, and I think that everybody should read this. It's short, it's 180 pages. Go read this damn book, and I think I'm going to give it 4.5 just because the stylistic choices. So 4 stars or 4.5 for that one. I don't really know my star ratings for the other books. I think I gave The Hating Game 5 stars. I think I gave The Picture of Dorian Gray 3 stars or 2.5, and this book 4 stars, 4.5, which kind of means that I enjoy books that are meant for Tauruses. But you know, this is just a short video. I would have had to read a lot more to really establish a good conclusion, I guess, to this video. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, a comment, and let me know what your zodiac sign is, and if you thought this video was a fun idea. Like I said in the beginning, if you want to do this, I would highly recommend you do this because I want to see more people doing this. Like, I can't talk for Kayla, but I think that she wouldn't mind if you got into her DMs and asked, because she was very nice to me when I did that. This was the end of this reading vlog. If you want me to do something like this in the future, leave a like, a comment, like I said, and subscribe because I post a new video every week, every Thursday, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!